into positions of hopelessness and helplessness. The government gives them the drugs, builds bigger prisons, passes a 3-strike law, and then wants us to sing God Bless America. No, no, no. Not God Bless America. God damn America. That's in the Bible for killing innocent people. God damn America for treating us citizens as less than human. God damn America as long as she tries to act like she is God and she is supreme.
Trigger warning. Manly trigger warning. I don't know. I figured we should do a content warning. We don't really do this very often, but I thought to remember to do it today because we are talking about nothing but gun violence. Guns. And that might be a thing you don't want to hear about yelled at you for an hour and a half, approximately. So yeah, it's a gun episode. You've been warned. Okay. Hello, everyone.
100 riff bullets per minute.
100 riff salute. What's the deal?
A riff gun.
A bunch of guys just yelling out riffs.
I bet that gun could get confiscated in the United States. They could ban riff guns.
Should be melted and burned like they did in Australia or whatever. Because it sucks. Hello, everyone. Sharpshooter Jake Flores here. Alex Patak is here.
Private First Class. Let's get hunting.
And on the machine guns, Anders Lee.
Anders Oakley here.
Oh, nice.
Oh, like Annie Oakley.
Yeah.
That's a thinking man's Anders Lee's here. They get more intellectual as time goes on.
Annie Oakley is intellectual? Okay, I'll take it.
I thought you were talking about the sunglasses at first.
That was
okay.
That was my confusion as well.
Is that
which is a thing that
company?
shooters wear?
I was gonna say it's like, oh, you're like a guy wearing sunglasses and shooting a gun. Anders Oakley. That makes sense.
Anders
right.
Oakley. Thank God that's not the case.
No.
Me shooting a gun. Yes. Have you guys ever shot a gun?
Yeah.
I have not, and I would like to.
I'm from Texas, and you can just go shoot a gun anywhere at any time there. They have shooting ranges you go to. You just give them your ID. It's like a bar. The guy barely looks at it. He just goes like, and then hands you a
Take our deadly weapons.
Different types of guns to go shoot, and it's insane that people don't get killed more often there. People are just swinging them around willy-nilly. There's no, in theory, there's like trigger discipline and people looking out for that sort of shit. But I've seen insane shit happen at those places, and I'll say this: it's very fun. Like, I think that is kind of important to the gun conversation because there is like this thing of there's like socialist rifle associations and stuff, and people that are really into the history of like armed left resistance and Black Panthers and stuff, and like want to make the argument extremely political. And it is. There's a political argument to be made for keeping strapped and shit, but like, let's not bullshit ourselves here. It's also that it's really fun to shoot
It's
guns.
fucking sick. Yeah.
They're cool.
I mean,
I played Time Crisis, and it was the best day of my life.
The thing I mean, for at least in my experience, the only gun I've shot is a 22 when I was 11, and it was hard, and so I didn't do it again because I think it was too difficult. So I think
what
that
were you
could
aiming
be
at?
a target, and I did not hit it.
The store.
I should be clear. I was not shooting up a target.
You were like the Walmart smiley face, but like before they'd figured that out brand wise. So it was just like an autistic boy with a gun. And he shoots you and the sale comes out.
Has anyone ever shot up a target? That seems like it would be too on the nose,
Right. It has no taste, and that's why no one's done it.
Don't do that.
I'm sure. I mean, I'm sure with a small enough caliber, I'm sure no one would notice if you hit the big sign. If you're shooting it with a 22, yeah. But 22s, I don't know. I was just maybe it was my feeble-mindedness, but I could not hit a target for shit. So I think maybe if you get enough kids to fire guns recreationally, they will see that, oh, this is too difficult. and it's too hard, and I'm not going to try and do it.
Right.
Although
because you don't want to look. I mean, the thing is, in movies, everyone wants to emulate the Taxi Driver or the Matrix, where a rogue no name pulls up and then like headshots 100 dudes in a row to get in past security or whatever. But is there anyone more disrespected in arts and film than the guy who brings a gun and misses a lot?
Yep. Yeah. I'm surprised there haven't been more incidents like that. Maybe there have been, and we just don't cover them that way.
Think of the stormtroopers in Star Wars.
Yeah.
And the reputation they have.
Yeah.
Not so funny anymore, is it?
We have to say something about blaster rifles on Alderaan.
I mean, that would actually be, if you wanted to do a PSYOP to stop mass shootings, you just have a kid who is basically an incompetent child, come with, guns, and they just miss everybody. And they're humiliated internationally. Then no one is going to want to, try that.
It bums everyone out so bad that everyone's like, let's just do something else because this kid sucks.
I'm now imagining the people who are mad at our show and are like, Anders is a Fed. And then you get Anders' ideas for PSYOPs and they're like, let kids shoot, but miss. I need $1 million on this now. Oh boy.
You know who didn't miss?
Oh gosh.
The guy who built a shotgun with everyday household materials and blew Shinzo Abe away.
Do we know he was aiming at Shinzo? Maybe he was aiming at something else.
We do know that because he shot him real close with a shotgun and successfully murdered him. Shinzo Abe, if you don't know, was Japanese prime minister for a stint in the 2000s and then for a while in the 2010s. He is famous for the Japan version of Holocaust denial, where he wanted to get all of the incidences of Japanese war crimes taken out of the history books. And his other big issue was rearming Japan. So a beloved left-wing figure by all, a man we will miss dearly. And I have a lot to say about the way he was killed. But before we get into that, I think one element that is going to fly under the radar for a lot of people is the day before he was killed, famous mangaka, the creator of Yu-Gi-Oh! I'm going to get his name up here, suddenly died at the age of 60 and had repeatedly taken out ads against Shinzo Abe to send him to the Shadow Realm.
Is that a thing in Yu-Gi-Oh?
It's where you go when you're banished by the cards, is you're blown away to the Shadow Realm, and he wanted that to happen to Shinzo Abe, and then he dies, and it did. He was banished to the Shadow Realm.
Yugi, we gotta send Shinzo Abe to the Shadow Realm.
He's gone, folks. He, I believe, was the longest serving Japanese prime minister. Is that right?
Blue Eyes White Dragon.
But he was out of office when he was murked. I think was he trying to get back in?
Okay. No. So he wasn't. He was just stumping for his party, which is called the Liberal Democratic Party. And it's like the conservative Japanese party. They were in Nara, which is a city famous for having completely domesticated deer. Because for hundreds of years, everyone had been treating the deer like they were sacred. So the deer are no longer afraid of people there. So you go there and then deer start trying to pick your pockets. They come up to you on the street and put their whole heads into your pants.
Wow.
In the 2010s, they were having issues because so many of them their numbers had gotten so high that they were just injuring tourists. Now they were just running up on people and deer munching on them to grievous harm. And then
you ride them?
I mean, there's an issue with that because Chinese and American tourists kept coming and then fucking with the deer. And now the deer are being abused, but are also striking back. And it is a whole battle line there. And now everyone's just going to remember it as the place where the prime minister was assassinated. But that's their other famous
kind of a glow
thing.
up.
Did you see his gun?
Yes, you can't tell it's a gun at first glance. It looks like an old camcorder.
So he made it, I think, in a garage. It's like just out of like steel pipes and wood in his house. It's a lot of it's held together with tape. It is huge. There's a picture of him in the street before he takes the shot. He has like pretty much like the berserk arm cannon out and ready, and just no one is worried about gun violence in Japan. So even the former president's detail doesn't catch on to this guy as he blows this dude away. He had another gun with 9 barrels on it. He made at his house.
Well, he's doing the Trigun cosplay or whatever. I'm looking at the
We're
gun
lucky
right
this
now.
guy's head wasn't like nuked from orbit. The amount of sci-fi weaponry coming out of this agitated young man.
This is held together with electrical tape. It looks crazy.
It's
Honestly,
the most cyberpunk assassination, I think, in modern history.
Yeah.
Perhaps a better way to get Shinzo Abe would have been to have like some sort of flamethrower type weapon that just like destroyed all his hair, because I think that's where a lot of his political power is in that amazing head of hair and those thick, sexy eyebrows. So if you were able to just, whack it all, suck it all off, no one would take him seriously.
That's very illustrative, but he did die. So I think the guy got him.
Yeah, he got him pretty. I don't think there's room for like feedback at this juncture. I can't do more. The other thing I didn't know about this guy is, though, I don't know shit about Japanese politics, but for whatever reason, Shinzo Abe has like a legion of white incel fans in America who are clawing their clothes off today in a fit of mourning because his third platform, aside from the history revisionism and army stuff, was just like, let's get people fucking, baby. Mandatory girlfriends. Yep. Let's do it. Enough being alone on Friday night for all my lonely boys.
Well, I mean, we talked about this in the interview a little bit, but there's like that phenomenon over there of people just sort of like vol selling, like just
hikikomori,
just not doing anything, and then everyone's worried like, oh, they're not going to have children, there's going to be like a drop in population or whatever growth. And this guy's answer to that, to a clear, like, to kind of lean into the theme of what we're going to talk about, his answer to a just clearly like complex psychological, sociological problem is just like, as a politician, like picks up megaphone and goes, let's get fucking everybody.
Make
like,
love.
Let's get it on.
Yeah, like
We must continue the ethno state.
how do you encourage people to fuck if they don't want to? I don't know.
Well, the reason this ties into conservative politics, especially in Japan, is how we have like great replacement theory over here.
Great.
People worry about white birth rates because they're, the fash adjacent lunatics. America is, even in theory, like even if you are a conservative patriot, a melting pot. There's nothing in Japan that encourages a melting pot kind of thing. They very much want one kind of beans in the pot. And so it becomes like a natural Japanese versus foreigners political issue, which stirs up a whole bunch of lovely sentiment.
I just watched this movie last night. I think No Regrets for Our Youth, about Japan. It's a Kurosawa movie about Japan in the 30s and how like they had, kind of a similar thing to like Germany and the United States or other places where professors, intellectuals were being persecuted for speaking out against the invasion of mainland China, which is a huge thing in the 1930s that like even to this day, Abe is trying to sort of paper over or like justify.
Well, not to this day, to yesterday, maybe.
Right. Up to his dying. Yeah. His ghost is still justifying the invasion of Manchuria and all that stuff. But like, it's, we forget how like there was a left-wing anti-imperialist movement there that was quashed by the nationalist state in Japan. But one thing I did want to touch on with hikikomori because I have a book about them somewhere that I got because a friend of mine who's traveled to Japan was telling me, and I tried looking this up. I couldn't. It's hard to, it's hard to find
you seem
like the right
you
translation.
Get no bitches.
Well, I was researching autism stuff.
He has a girlfriend.
I do have a government assigned girlfriend.
Russian government assigned girlfriend.
Yeah, there you go. But the hikikomori, supposedly there was this sort of legal battle a few years ago about whether or not they should be considered autistic, because that would give them a disability protection in which it would be okay for them to be unemployed and living at home because they have this disability. But the government was saying, no, you are able-bodied and of an able mind. You just need to get out there, put some babies, put some pheromone cologne on, which is what I used as a incel, and get cracking, get fucking.
As a young incel, man, if I was just living over there and all this stuff was happening and they passed that law, unconnected from all this stuff, I would go straight to the whatever office and be like, excuse me, I'm not fucking and I don't want to work. Can I stay home and play video games and get a paycheck? That sounds fucking tight. Are you going to check if I fuck? Do I lose my unemployment if I get late?
Yeah, you seem too relaxed this month. We're going to need that money back.
Oh.
We know you're out there getting it wet. Yeah, so RIP to Kazuki Takahashi, dead creator of Yu-Gi-Oh! You're with the Pharaohs now. And that's what we wanted to say before this mass shooting interview.
Yeah, Big Yugi and Little Yugi are crying on your grave together right now.
It is no longer time to duel.
Today we are talking to writer Todd McGowan, teaches at University of Vermont, a writer who writes about mass shootings and can be read. I'm using the same word way too much in this. You can read his stuff in Sublation magazine.
Sublation.
Thank you.
Creation.
Let him finish.
Humiliation. I'm sorry. I can't. Every time I hear about Sublation Media, that the Citizen Cope song pops into my head.
No, let's sing it again, and we'll use that to transfer into the interview.
Okay. Let the incel fuck. Let the incel fuck that. Let the incel fuck. Let the incel fuck that.
What the hell is that?
That's part of the song. That's like sort of the I don't know if that would be the chorus, but it's just a bunch of words that rhyme with like imagination.
I've heard
human creation, solution.
It's been a while. Until you brought it up earlier this week, I had not thought of it in easily like 12 years. But yeah,
it's been sublation in your head. It's been sublated. I don't even know what that word means, but
Dog Lane Production.
Assimilation. That's what sublation means. Is assimilation.
Let's talk to Todd McGowan about mass shootings and the role that enjoyment plays in them. All right, we are now talking to Todd McGowan from the University of Vermont about his new article on the there's no fun way to say this, the mass shootings that keep happening
in murders.
You can read this article in Sublation magazine, and there'll be a link to that in the show notes. Todd, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Jake.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. I read your article. I thought it was really interesting, and I also read some of the new book that you sent me, Enjoyment, Right and Left. So I think I've got a handle on what you're talking about here, but can you summarize maybe your thesis here at the top of our
Sure. That part of my point is that the question is, why are we not doing anything about shootings and about the wide scale availability of guns? And I think that part of the underlying reason is that it supports a certain right-wing conception of enjoyment. That is, that there's this saying we hear that a good guy with a gun stops a bad guy with a gun is, I think, part of the logic at work that there has to be an enemy that we're fighting against, and the enemy is the source of the enjoyment for this conservative right-wing structure of enjoying. And that's one of the things I lay out in the book. Obviously, that there's also the concern for the leftist or emancipatory alternative to that.
Yeah, I read I don't know, about half of your book or something like that the other day, and like I think I got kind of the a handle on what you're talking about here. I'm going to take a stab here at something that's out of my depth theory wise, but am I to understand that this term enjoyment you're using is somewhat like the in psychology or in like in like Lacan and stuff like that, this idea of jouissance, the that complicated French theory word that means a lot of things. And
yeah, that's right. That's where it comes from for sure. I mean, and one of the things that it means is that it's a excess, right? Like it's a excess. So it's not just pleasure, it's excessive pleasure that becomes even painful to endure. There's always some kind of suffering attached to it. So yeah, so it definitely comes from this term jouissance from Lacan. Then I've trying to develop it in a further way for sure.
I'm curious, like what about that phenomena, that term in particular caught your interest? Because it was kind of, as I was reading, I was thinking about how, because you write about how jouissance or enjoyment is really prevalent among the far right as well as the far left, and in all political actors, that's an element. But couldn't you say the same of any emotion, sadness, despair, anger, rage? What about enjoyment and jouissance made you think it was important enough to elevate it?
Why would that be the central thing? Right. Like it's a good question.
Thank you.
I think that, for me, I would just say that it's the, in a way, I think it covers all those other, it's the emotion. It's what enjoyment may be hard way to think about it, but like something like satisfaction, it keeps us going during the day. So I'm not sure that those other emotions like sadness or anger or happiness, that's not what keeps us going, gets us through the day. And that's how I think of enjoyment. Like it's the thing that drives us, gets us up in the morning. That's, I guess, where I see it.
Okay, well, let's focus on the shootings for a minute, though. Can you break down like what you see as the cycle that happens here? Because it does seem like a cyclical thing.
It does, doesn't it? Right? Like so a shooting happens, and then I think to myself, wow, it's a dangerous world out there. I better arm myself even more, because the people coming to take what I have or coming to attack me are going to be even better armed. So I better arm myself even more. And that's, to me, that's the, and then I think it's correct to say that obviously the gun industry plays into that, but it's still to me, a psychic structure at work behind it, right? That then the more I arm, and then the next cycle I have to arm even more. And that, I think that and we have to fight against bans on any kinds of guns, because that will lessen our ability to defend ourselves. I think that's the law. And I think there's a certain enjoyment in that figure of the enemy, the bad person with a gun. And until that form of enjoyment's given up, then it seems to me like the cycle will just continue on and on.
So I'm just thinking of specific examples here, because I understand hypothetically that these outbreaks of violence that happen spontaneously would kind of drive you into a point of isolation where you want to arm yourself, and the world becomes a more violent place that way. But looking at the specific examples of who's been doing the shootings recently, they're aiming younger. So it's less like jaded older men, the way that, maybe we would be more used to 20, 30 years ago. And a lot of them don't have that like right-wing militia profile that I associate with like a gun head, like somebody who loves guns. Like, what do you think about these isolated younger people who end up lashing out like this? No,
agreed. I think it's a good point. And I think that it's a little, I think it's related to the incel phenomenon, like this sense of like, I don't belong, I have no place. And so I'm going to lash out. But I don't think when I say it's a right-wing form of enjoyment. I'm talking about the decision to arm oneself. I'm not talking about the shooters themselves. I think you're right. Like, I don't think there's necessarily, I mean, the Buffalo case, there was a clear political agenda, but I think in general, there's not a political agenda. Like, I don't think it comes from a definite political position. Right.
There's a scattered ideology thing happening where you have alienated people from whatever their political niche is, just essentially deciding there's no future for themselves and lashing out. And a lot of the times that does end up with like fash leaning young aggrieved white men who get Burger King in the cop car.
Right.
But it does end up in other places as well.
Sure.
Japan,
for
one.
Yeah.
Japan, which we'll be talking about in the intro.
Well, I'm curious to get your reaction to the news of Shinzo Abe's assassination. Someone who you mentioned incels. He was kind of an anti-incel. Like he wanted people to have. He was a cell. He wanted young men to go out and shed their alienation and have sex and reproduce.
That's not a cell. A cell would be a celibate.
Okay.
Right.
Well,
what's the opposite of cell? Sex. He was a
horn dog.
He was a ideological horn dog.
Well, there is an actual phenomenon in Japan that I'm curious to get your thoughts on, the hikikomori, which is like, no, seriously, like it's sort of, someone called it another way of saying incel, but it has been a long-standing phenomena for like a generation now. There's like thousands, if not millions, of young men who don't leave their houses, who can't get employed. It's kind of like a self-perpetuating thing because people see gaps in the employment. But they have not armed themselves in the way we have here. A lot of that is, because of laws in Japan. But do you think this is a sign of that maybe changing? I mean, obviously there's a lot we don't know yet about the shooter, the assassin. But I was curious to get your reaction to Shinzo Abe's assassination, particularly that it came from a young man who had a homemade gun.
Yeah. I mean, isn't that striking though, that he had to have a homemade gun to be able to do it. I mean, I think I would say that phenomenon seems like it's a related phenomenon to what's happening here. So I'm just trying to explain think about why this is happening in the US in the way it does. But I think the same kinds of struggles happen in every society. So it just doesn't happen around guns in Japan, but you could see this is the first step toward that.
Yeah.
Or not, or maybe not. Maybe it's like it goes the other way, right? Like there's even more, I don't know how there could be more restrictiveness, because it's, I think, one of the most, if not the most restricted gun countries in the world. But I don't necessarily, I mean, I think it just, the phenomenon can manifest itself differently in different places. I don't think there's any inherent vice in the US because we have more gun deaths, but I also don't think there's an inherent virtue. Like I think it's just different in both places. But I do think that this could mark a turn in Japan for sure. Like there could be a sense that, how do you respond, like rather than staying in your house, how do you lash out instead? I think that's certainly a possibility.
A lot of this is a cultural difference as well, because I think you're right. There's nothing inherently barbaric about Americans, given their brains or whatever. But something that's objectively true is we just have so many more guns than any other country. I mean, unless it's like a country in a civil war.
Even there, I think we have more. So
yeah. And then we give them all of their guns so they can have the war, which is very generous of us and works out economically.
Right.
But yeah, when you're talking about these people who, like we were saying earlier, are skewing younger, they're often getting like a parent's guns or a relative's guns, and they get access to it that way. Like no one has any guns in Japan. Right.
So if you wanted to go on a shooting spree, you just simply couldn't do it. Right. Like I think, I was so struck by this. One of the things that really struck me, as I follow these gun shootings very closely all the time. And when the Sandy Hook shooting took place, there was a stabbing in China. And I think it was interesting. Like it was almost an exact correlation. Like 21 people were hurt. And I don't remember how many exact kids were killed in Sandy Hook, but something like almost the exact same number were injured versus being killed. And I just thought, if only the person had a knife rather than a gun to do it, I think it would have made a big difference.
That's the difference between a gun and a knife.
Yeah.
Final Fantasy VIII. What if they were the same thing? We don't have time to discuss.
No.
But I mean, I don't know. This is like not a new point at all. This is not an extremely novel thing to point out about this, but it's like obvious, I think, kind of hanging in the air. This is a fucking problem of availability, right? Like the people are not that much different in America, arguably, than anywhere else, and yet the statistics for gun violence are way out of whack here because you throw a rock and you hit a gun, and if you are going through something psychological and you feel like you need to express it through a gun, then there's one around pretty easily. You could drive to Walmart and get one. You have places like Australia where they've successfully de-gunned everything, and there's probably people walking around having those same feelings, but they're not able to act like impulsively in this way. That kind of seems to be the problem, and yet the reason that we have this problem of guns being super available is arguably, I guess, from your article, that we have a culture that is fueled by the need for the need to be under siege, right? That's the big right-wing psychology thing, is the feeling of constantly being up yours, woke mob and moralists, as our friend Jordan Peterson said this week. Always attack, always under attack, seemingly from an invisible enemy that no one else really can relate to because most people have normal problems,
Right.
That's the key to unlocking this, right? Is I guess it seems like what you're pointing out is like, you're not going to stop these people from fucking up this part of the cycle and constantly adding more guns onto the pile until you figure out what's driving like that. Right.
Right. Right. Why does it seem okay? Right. Like, why don't we do what Australia did? I think to me, that's the real question. Like, why? So it's not impossible. Like, it's not like the things that could be done to rectify it aren't unthinkable. And they're not impossible to do, but they just aren't done. And I think it's because it fits into a certain psychic disposition that seems very comfortable to people. And so that's why it continues.
Yeah, I mean, you can't get it done in this fucking Gordian knot that we're stuck in culturally, where we're like the Bill Maher country, where half of the people here seem to think of themselves as like bravely fighting against cancel culture and the woke mob, and everyone's coming to get your guns, and all of these things that have been like lumped together into one big, weird, homunculus monster Cronenberg body horror blob thing that is right-wing culture war. And like, and also, I mean, you can't fight the symptoms of the disease, right? So we're not going to like just go around and convince all of these people that's a bad idea. Here, read a bunch of gun statistics and stuff. That there's like something core and existential to the right wing that's causing this here, right?
That's right. I think it's a really good point that there's not a number of, you can't pull out a magical fact and then change people's minds. I think that's a really important psychoanalytic point, right? That we don't desire what we desire because we don't know better, but we don't know better because of what we desire. And I think that's a really, really crucial idea, right? That I read the statistic that people that watch Fox News, listen to conservative radio, are less informed about common news items of people that don't even listen to the news at all, right? So you'd think like, oh, well, what we just need to do is inform them better. But no, they're choosing to be uninformed because of a certain way of structuring their certain psychic disposition, not because they're not uninformed, and that's why they have a certain disposition. I think to me, that's a really crucial idea.
Well, I was just going to say, I was wondering too how, the culture is obviously a huge topic here, and I'm curious what you think, how big of a role that plays, because it used to be the case, and it still is with conservatives, when one of these shootings happen, that they'll say, the problem is violent video games or movies and stuff like that. And there certainly is something to be said for that. I remember after 9/11, as a kid, I had that kind of siege mentality too. Like I was living in Virginia at the time, and I assumed, of course, that terrorists would invade our neighborhood, and I was going to have to get some BB guns together and fend them off, which is kind of absurd and definitely absurd in retrospect. But and Michael Moore makes this point in Bowling for Columbine, other countries don't seem to have this problem. So Canada has a lot of violent video games, a lot of violent movies. They don't have this issue. What do you think that is?
Yeah, I think to me, the best thing, like Canada is interesting because I think Canada is second to us in gun violence in the world. So so Michael Moore in Bowling for Columbine presents Canada as this. He often does this as this beautiful alternative, and it's not quite so much. But what's interesting is Japan has the most violent video games, the most violent films, and the lowest rate of the lowest murder rate and the lowest rate of gun violence in the world. So I think to me that just shows it's a not only is it a stretch, it's just absurd to think, because couldn't you make the argument the other way that thank God these kids have these video games where they can get out their violent tendencies so they don't have to go actually shoot people. I mean, I just think you could easily flip it around and make this nice Aristotelian argument about catharsis. And it would make, I don't think it's a crazy thing to say. So you could just do the argument the other way. So I'm really, really skeptical, not just because I'm also a film professor, but because, I just think it doesn't hold up. And the Japan thing makes it, to me, absolutely clear. Like the violence in Japanese cinema and Japanese film is so much worse than in ours. So, I mean, Japanese film and Japanese video games. So it's just
awesome.
Right.
Yeah. It's
awesome.
you mean
better.
We're all big fans. It is
cool stuff.
It is an interesting counterpoint. I mean, not just because it's in the news, but when you talk about the lower rate of violence in Japan, I would love to see that contrasted with suicide rates, because that's something they famously have a very high volume of. And I wonder if there's something in like the culture about not bothering other people and just ending your own life instead of going on a Duke Nukem killing spree.
Yeah. I'm for that. Right?
It is better. I mean, it's objectively better.
Of course it's objectively better. I don't see a problem with that, frankly. Like, I mean, I could imagine being in a situation where I would think that. I don't think that's a crazy thing to think. Like,
it may not hold up with the numbers too, because America does also have a lot of suicide. But
it's because I think we do because of guns, though, right? Like, there's more people die every day because of gun suicide than because of gun homicide, right? So it's again, the availability of guns, I think, skews even our suicide statistics.
It does kind of throw a wrench in this, usual Marxist left-wing thinking that, I often find myself falling into as, alienated teen goes on a shooting spree. You can only tackle these by addressing the base of the problem, which is our unwavering reserve of atomized, isolated young men and women who are have nothing to live for and everything to lose. But when you hold that in contrast with Japan, who also has this same kind of trend in alienation, they're not having the same pattern. So there's a complicated angle to it on that level.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. I think you're right. Like the base economic explanation in this case just doesn't hold up, because you can look across nations where there's the same basic economic structure and there's a far different result in terms of gun violence.
It's definitely part of the picture. It's just it doesn't explain the whole thing. For sure. I have a mildly spicy question to put in towards the end of this interview, just for fun, if we're
Sounds
up
good.
for it. So last Monday we had the shooting at the July 4th parade in Highland Park, Illinois, by that, the SoundCloud rapper guy.
Yep.
I do not remember his name, which is also part of the dialogue, is say their name, but also never say their name. We don't want them to be remembered.
Not saying their name is a good thing.
Right.
Yeah, I think that's good too. I couldn't find it when I just did a quick Google right now, but
which is
there's this line that comes up over and over again with these shootings, which is that the perpetrator is known in advance by law enforcement, and a lot of times they're like in chat rooms with retired members of the security sector or people who are actively employed by the state in some way. What do you make of the pattern here with these disaffected young people going on murder sprees right after talking to law enforcement in some way?
Well, that's an interesting thing, isn't it? Like, is there a kind of symbiotic relationship between that? Like, or clearly that I mean, look, I think the element of transgression in these acts is inextricable from them, right? So they want the police to be aware of what they're doing. They want to know that they're transgressing a law, because when you could act out in a lot of ways, right? You could act out for attention in a lot of ways that wouldn't necessarily violate the law or kill anyone, and they don't do that. So I think it's important that interacting with the cop gives this sense of transgression to what they're doing, for sure. I mean, I think there are times when they have been stopped. I know that, like, there was, I forget where it was, but one guy, because of his online activity, they actually were on to him and stopped him. But you would think that they would be able to stop more, but I don't think they do.
Right. Which, to take a conspiracy angle to it, as sometimes comes up when you discuss these things, there is a documented history of a strategy of getting into contact with these violent people and kind of encouraging them to do these things so that you can stop them, or right. So you can get more money for your department by racking up arrests of dangerous murderers. And it's unclear at this moment in time, like, looking back on this 100 years, is this going to be that these were like kind of like a recurring, like, quick cash grab that law enforcement agencies thought they could go back to? Or is this some kind of Gladio B thing where these are being set up on purpose to kind of ramp up the security state? Or is it just genuine? Is it just people who love guns love going to the same chat rooms? And there's no way of knowing what that is until we get a little farther along in time.
Right. No, it's an interesting point. I also think one of the fascinating things, so when I was a kid, serial killers were the phenomenon, right? And then sometime, I don't know, in the 90s, it like switched over. I mean, there were occasional mass shootings. There was one at University of Texas, but it was a rather rare thing. And serial killers were ubiquitous. And now it's totally flipped, right? Like, if you want this kind of attention, you don't, serial killing isn't the way to do it. It's a mass shooting. So I think I don't have a theory on that, but it's a fascinating shift, I think, in the way that things have, in the way that you act out for larger cultural, social attention.
Well, some people would argue, that it's the same people, and it's just that you can't get away with.
Yeah. There's too many cameras
anymore, and sending, spooky riddles to the cops and shit over the course of years, because you'll get busted pretty quick, but you could do it all at once, basically.
You can't try to make gay mind control zombies in your apartment for 4 years without anyone noticing, because everyone has a camera on their goddamn phone. That
is true. No, that is true. Right.
We used to be a proper country.
Right. It has been a while since we've had a legit serial killer. I mean, to what we were saying earlier about the names of the shooters, I think that is like one of the few places where kind of media has improved in America. Because, after Columbine, Eric and Dylan kind of got it what they wanted, which is
they did. Yeah.
We're calling him Eric and Dylan, and then people know who I'm talking about. But now I can't name the last, 5 mass shooters. There are the victims whose names have been publicized, which I think is appropriate. But I'm curious if that Columbine moment, before that, we're talking about kind of these archetypes. Postal workers, weren't they kind of like a figure in like the 90s that was seen as like the job that would inspire people to do mass shootings? And like, how did that shift? Was that a shift, and how did that kind of happen from postal workers to like alienated teens?
Yeah, in fact, I don't think people would understand you if you said going postal, but in the 90s, that was everybody said that.
Right.
I think it's funny now we think of the postal worker as one of the lucky ones that gets a nice pension, has only has to work 30 years or whatever. So I don't know. It's interesting. I mean, that shift, I think it's where we locate. It's where don't you think it's where the most severe alienation happens? And yet the place where you're also most in touch with something that seems beyond your grasp, right? Like, I think today you're constantly bombarded. And I think it's interesting. So the postal worker, what did they do? Like, they delivered packages to people that are extremely wealthy or packages that they themselves couldn't afford, right? And then that maybe you could see how a little envy would crop into that, and then violence would break out. But today you're bombarded with images every minute, every hour of incredible excess from that other people are having that you can't have. And I think that's why it's migrated into this other area. But I would just say that I think it's the victory of Paul McCartney, right? Like he was the first one to say, I'm never going to say that guy's name who killed John Lennon. And I think this is like, he finally won the day in terms of like the way you're saying, like the media reports on these things.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us. I think we solved it. There's not going to be any
Good work, everyone.
Very good. Very good. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
Yeah. Where can our listeners read you and find you and all that stuff?
Yeah. So I have different things on YouTube. I have a podcast called Why Theory, and I've written a few books that are on Amazon. So
cool. Show notes. You know what to do, folks. Should I start?
Should I start? No, I didn't freeze. I just
you haven't stopped talking for like 10 minutes until we were like, all right, Anders, lead us in.
Sorry, I was trying to think of an Asian word too. A new nation we will be covering for the rest of the episode, because we're talking 3 continents, 3 nations, the third one.
God, he did it.
You're segueing from the thing that will have happened 30 minutes before this comes on.
Yeah.
Well, it's still in
we'll use the song twice.
Yeah.
I like how you're podcasting sideways today. This is a really cool look.
Yeah, I got this set up, this rig, I think they call it, with a spit fleck deflector in front of the mic.
You sound way better.
Thank you. Is that because of this? It's blocking my plosives.
It's because you're not moving the mic around.
Yeah.
How'd that sound?
Sounded great, man.
It sounds good every time.
So
what else sounds good is
the new Chilean
Constitution.
That's right. We are talking now about another development we talked North America, we talked Asia, Japan specifically, and now we're talking about Chile, which is in South America. You get 3 different continental news tidbits from
yum
this podcast. Yeah. Globetrotting. Travelization. What's the word that ends in Asian that is about traveling? Globalization. There we go.
101 Dalmatian. That movie?
Yes. Great movie.
Japanese people, no masturbation. They're not.
No, that's all they do is.
Okay, I got it wrong. Yes, masturbation.
Yes, masturbation.
Yes.
Well, no, you're saying no more masturbation.
I'm pleading with them to stop masturbating.
Yeah,
please
have sexual relation in your nation. So Chile, you hear about this? It is getting possibly a new constitution. The left has been fighting for this.
What the hell?
For a generation, because even if you elect a socialist, anti-capitalist, whatever he is, president in Chile, you still got this old constitution laying around that prevents any real good stuff from happening. Because, of course, the constitution is from the Pinochet years, who was a hyper-capitalist dictator.
Pinochet Hanks is his full name.
Right.
Yeah.
He saw over the dark era of white boy summer for the nation from 1973 to 1980, whatever.
Yeah. Great movie. No. Have you ever seen No? It's about a referendum in Chile on whether to keep Pinochet.
Why do you call him Pinochet? Is that how you say that for real?
I've heard it pronounced both ways. So I want to respect the man's.
I want to respect all the ways you can say a name wrong.
Yeah, maybe I should do the opposite. Maybe we shouldn't have called Abe. We should have called him Abe, just as out of disrespect for another right wing.
All my Abes gone. God damn it, that's good.
Moving on.
So The new constitution is being drafted, and it could come up for a referendum soon. National vote. Imagine that, being able to vote, the entire country, every citizen gonna be able to go out there and vote up or down on a constitution. We have nothing like that in the United States. There's no questions that are put to national referendum. Instead, we have
a little thing called American Idol. The entire
Fair.
country votes on their
That's
phone
fair.
for Clay Aiken.
And several American Idol spin-offs that have seemed like they've kind of lost the plot of what American Idol was going for. There's a show called Dancing with Myself, hosted by Joe Jonas and Shakira. It's a
that's two people.
Well, and there's two more that I don't know because they're like TikTok stars or whatever. But the show is just they get everyday people who dance alone to dances to like Shakira gives them. And then the audience votes on their phones in front of them. And like 4 people move on each round. And then the other people move back into a box on stage. And Joe Jonas goes, "Close the pods." And a door swings down, shutting them away from the camera.
Whoa.
Oh, that's
Shit.
scary.
So they have to follow choreography.
They try their best, but it's always
Okay.
like, "I'm a doorman in the Bronx and I love to dance."
Yeah, I mean, those are two separate things. Like and I know this is personal experience. I took 4 years of dance. I will say, a pretty good dancer.
4 years.
Extemporaneously, yes.
4 more years.
I can do it extemporaneously on my own. If you put on a great tune, I can cut the rug. But I cannot learn choreography. There are two separate fucking mechanisms.
Well, you're never going to be a TikTok star.
Well, maybe if it's me doing my own dance, I think
Okay.
I could, but I can't learn from other people.
The
I'm just
system
like that.
won't allow it.
Right.
What's
Speaking
going on?
of the-
Chill. Go ahead.
Speaking of the system, Chile might get a new one. This new constitution's got some great stuff in it. And of course, the loudest detractors, some of them are from other parts of the world because they don't want to see this happening anywhere, let alone Chile, which has been a bastion of capitalism and right-wing thought for several decades since the overthrow illegitimately of Allende, which even then we forget took them a few years to fully install the straitjacket of neoliberalism, but they did it, and they've had it on the country for a long time, even after it's been democratized. The economy is a very hard thing to rewire anywhere, but especially in Chile, where they have a reactionary constitution. So this thing could get rewritten and voted on, but get this, the Economist magazine ain't happy about it. They're calling this, they have the Magna Carta. They are calling this a Magna mistake.
We're
Voters
calling this a Magnum condom.
Voters should reject Chile's new draft constitution. Excuse me. It is a fiscally irresponsible left-wing wish list. The image for this article is a constitution with a paper with words on it. You can't read the words, but it's got a red sort of stamp bow at the end. But then you see the toilet paper. Excuse me. God damn it. I fucked up
Oh, it's a big reveal.
I'll take that out.
The paper that this constitution is written on in the image for this article is toilet paper. So it's saying,
What the hell?
As if to say, I wipe my ass with your constitution.
yeah.
The the same kind of paper Jake shits with?
Mm-hmm.
Do you not? You
You use constitutions.
I use constitutional paper.
That probably is not great for your ass crack, but
It's hard to get,
regardless.
I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
So what is actually on the agenda here?
So there's a lot of great stuff. They did try to nationalize all natural resources, but that didn't get through. So the central bank still has some independence, although it has been expanded to include employment protection, care for the environment, and natural heritage. They call this document overall a confusing mess full of woolly language that more or less guarantees decades of squabbling. The draft mentions nature, which would be given rights. You can't give rights to nature. Gender. It mentions gender 39 times. That's 38 times too many, I guess. And they're saying
more than God planned.
Yeah, they want to put in a national health system and make that a constitutional right, which would be
a lot of people who set to rewrite their government's constitution often forget they still have to please the editorial boards at The Economist, Financial Times, Bloomberg. These are the people who make the decisions in Chile. You gotta get them on board.
I mean, as Kissinger famously said, some decisions are too important for the Chilean people to decide for themselves. And I think this constitution, he would say, is one of them. Gives trade unions the sole right to represent workers, guarantees them a say in corporate decision-making, and allows them to strike for any reason, not just those relating to work, which is a terrifying notion to right-wingers around the world. The thought that a trade union, which I believe this is illegal in the United States, I think thanks to Taft-Hartley, that a union, if you're going to go on strike, it has to be based on your conditions. It can't be for, say, I don't know, arms going to a country that you don't want those arms to go to, or another industry on strike in solidarity, a general strike to shut down the economy. That stuff is forbidden in many places. And
striking for fun,
right? Striking for Juicense is illegal. It says everybody has a right to work. That job insecurity is prohibited, and this is going to make it too hard to fire people. They're really concerned about that. It's going to blow up the budget, for God's sakes. There's the national health system, cradle to grave care, provision of housing, which says it says every person has a right to housing, and it's going to ban property speculation and for-profit education.
No.
Like, this is just making me drool.
I do have a hard time imagining. I know it exists and it happens, but imagining somebody reading this and just like punching a hole in their wall or whatever. Like,
I mean, yeah, they're freaking out because they say it's too broad, and they point to some of the things that they see as absurd in the document, such as promotion of the culinary and gastronomic heritage of Chile. And the spirit.
No.
Yeah. God forbid we have like national cuisine that we like try to promote and protect. Like that's not a bad. I don't even know why a conservative would be against that. But there's other things too, like a right to sports, which, if you think about it, is like a fair enough thing, right? Everybody should have equal access to recreational facilities and Juicense, in a way, through sports.
Juicense for all.
Yeah, that's what they're aiming for. But that is just totally anathema to the Economist's ideal of how society should function, what states should do and shouldn't guarantee. That should be your private business, whether or not you are able to participate in sports. You think about like golf. I remember there were these ads 20 years ago, like kids in like, rough neighborhoods playing golf. And it seems so strange. And it still does, because it's a rich man's game. But what if we had a system where everybody was allowed, had a right to things like playing golf? I mean, maybe you would have to change that system and have less golf courses, or reimagine what a golf course is.
It would be, can you imagine if Wario was allowed to play with you, and the vagrant criminal Shy Guy and King Boo, a monarch from another nation, I'm assuming.
On a plant?
Yeah, I fucking Waluigi. He's a sex offender, I think. Everyone playing golf together in one community. I can't imagine it. I just bought Mario Golf.
Luigi's girlfriend, Daisy, who is different and separate than Peach.
Mm-hmm. And lower class.
Lower class. She's from the streets. She's a dog.
Right.
That's how Luigi likes it. He's a dog.
He is a dog.
Yeah, so this thing, they are freaked out, and they, it would include education based on empathy and respect for animals. Dear Lord, we can't have that, which they have in neighboring, maybe not neighboring, but nearby countries. Costa Rica has like the environment is like in the Constitution, and that's why you can't bring like foreign fruits into Costa Rica because it'll fuck up the natural habitats of other plants.
I mean, you ask like who is reading this and getting mad, but I can picture the guy. He thinks the Constitution of Chile is too woke. That's what the modern way of looking at this is.
Yeah.
Up yours, woke Chilean mob.
Yeah, I mean, he's Jordan Peterson, and so he's saying up yours is the funniest fucking part of that.
It's not like a phrase elder people should have ready. I don't think it sounds too crazy.
But then there is also this worship of like the weird, like bare bones kind of nature of the American Constitution in theory, that it's like elegant or whatever, in that its simplicity. It's stupid that anyone would be mad about this, because this is like what you're supposed to do with if you're a fucking a Republican, you believe.
Well, I'm assuming here too, but is this article written by an American?
It's under. I was trying to find the author, and it just says leaders. So I think it's just like.
Yeah, the Economist. It's like a Economist editors section or whatever. Because Americans specifically have a cultural aversion to changing the Constitution. I've seen several meltdowns from people who consider themselves liberals or moderates online, where they say they're never going to vote Democrat again after seeing the squad endorse making changes to the Constitution or disrespecting the Constitution for our country, which is only like 250 years old.
We've only had one Constitution. Like, you know how insane that is in the rest of the world? Like,
it's just a bad idea, really. Yeah. Like, more than like political thing, is just like, yeah, you're still running Windows 95 on your government. Go ahead and punch that up.
Yeah, thanks, Clippy.
Right. I mean,
you look like you're making an apartheid state. Can I help with that?
I mean, it's funny how, like, because I wouldn't be opposed to a constitutional convention in the United States, but it's basically impossible, right? And if one were to happen right now, it would probably be end up with a worse constitution, just because everything is too.
It would be awesome. Are you kidding me? If we just let everyone have input right now, like amendment number 1, no fucking woke mob. Amendment number 2, let's go Brandon.
Yeah, that would be the First Amendment, is just say let's go Brandon, which the majority of the country agrees on. But yeah, like
amendment number 3, the Bud Knight is Secretary of State.
Hell yeah, dude.
He's a knight.
Yeah, I mean, you do have like a strong movement there that has been agitating for this for years and building to this point, and getting in the right position for it to actually happen. And I think it could in September, is I believe when the vote is, and the Economist advises the people of Chile, who I'm sure so many of them are reading the Economist that's behind like 80 paywalls. I had to fucking do some
part of the Constitution is to get a paid subscription for all civilians to the Economist, so they can kind of learn.
I mean, if Boric wants to throw them a bone, I think that wouldn't be a bad proposal, right?
It's nationally mandated. It's part of the government now.
Yeah, then they'd be for this Constitution.
I'm hearing really good things about this Constitution.
I forgot that guy. Amendment number 7, Deftones are the best band of all time.
And Taylor Swift. Number 6. Great.
Death penalty for stealing my bike.
Yeah.
So they end with basically like a suggestion that the current constitution in Chile, it ain't great. They'll say that, like, yes, this thing isn't perfect. This constitution that was introduced by a fascist dictator who rounded up thousands of people and massacred them in soccer stadiums and tortured them and just all this
Pushed them out of
heinous shit.
helicopters.
Yeah.
Thank
It's
you,
not perfect what he put in
Economist
place.
staff.
Right. But it is so much better than giving everybody a job in healthcare. We got to prevent that at all costs. So vote no on this Constitution. That's what they say. And hopefully they will be ignored once again. And that toilet paper will be changed out for an issue of The Economist, which probably honestly better for your anus than Constitution paper.
They both seem around as rough. Like magazine paper, not as rough, but like if I'm thinking of what's given me the most paper cuts in my life, I think that kind of paper is number one.
Okay, but how many constitutions have you? They at a certain point they get kind of like soft. So maybe
they're like a pirate's map.
Yeah, but this is a new one. So I don't know. I think it needs a few hundred years to decay.
Guys, this conversation is grossing me out. Text Crazy Frog to 310-310 to vote for the Constitution.
Yeah, if you're in Chile, vote C. Well, that was the movie that I saw. No, it was just called No because that was about the campaign to vote against Pinochet in the 80s, early 90s. And now it's we're turning that no into a C.
Into a C.
No, Shay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's another week for us here at Goddamn America.
We learned about guns today and also this other thing that has nothing to do with them. But hey, I was trying to think of a way to make this about, we learned about arming yourself with artillery and also with rights. From Constitution. The only way.
Which one is more deadly?
Think about that. Freaky libertarian guys. That actually seems like something that would fry a libertarian robot's brain. What is better, guns or the Constitution?
Error.
Yeah.
Error.
Let's get the fuck out of here. Does anyone have plugs?
Yes, at Andersley here on Twitter, Dursley1 Instagram. Check out my Substack, substack.andersley.com, or excuse me, andersley.substack.com. And also, I want to plug, we did say that suicide is preferable to mass shootings, but I still think it's a bad idea and that you shouldn't do it. If you are thinking about it, please give a call to a suicide hotline. We would hate to.
I hope everybody who listened to this episode got the plugs. Oh boy. What an irresponsible thing.
As long as
show.
We're doing like retroactive amendment plugs. What I suggested earlier that someone maybe hadn't shot up a target yet. Please don't do that and then refer to this podcast as while you did it. I'll be very sad if you do that. I was joking. Don't take anything we say seriously. Anything.
I don't really wipe my butt with Constitution paper. I was just riffing around. I'm sorry about that. That's
don't do that
either. It's a manufactured lie.
No,
if you're out of toilet paper, that's one thing. But
hey, here's a plug for you. If you want to see Anders Lee next week in New York City, you got to come to Paid Protests Saturday, July 16th at the Secret Loft. I may have said last month was our last show at the Secret Loft in Manhattan, but I was wrong.
There's actually a secret one. There's a new secret one.
There's a new secret one in Bushwick after this, but this is our last one in Manhattan for real. I think this time. I think it's Pay What You Want. It supports the YDSA in New York City.
That's the youth. If you don't want them to be, end up like other youth that we've mentioned on the show, come to the show and give them money.
Please, the disaffected socialist youth, they're out there. They're, experimenting with their bodies and their young minds. They're possibly joining gangs and holding chains and standing around the corner and swinging them and stuff. Playing that knife game with your hand on a
Yeah,
bar.
where you chop at the hand.
It's a crucial moment in their development. So please,
They're doing all the mini games from Red Dead Redemption 2.
well, we're gonna get them on the straight and narrow and on the right path to being healthy, happy adults.
That's right, Jake. And so paid protest July 16th, Game Boys, July 15th at Caveat. Also a fun stand-up show. Come to these great stand-up shows. Follow me on Twitter at Patak Test Kitchen. That's PTAK Test Kitchen. And I've been slacking on the TikTok, but we'll bring that back soon. And then we'll plug that here. Won't that be fun?
Good answer.
Yeah, I'm at Feral Jokes on everything. You know that. Come to I'm doing stand-up on Gabe Pacheco's show, Funhouse, at Pete's Candy Store in Williamsburg on the 20th of July. And other than that, I'm not doing shit. Leave me alone. I'm on hiatus because I just got back from tour.
Jake is Hikikomori now.
Yeah, I ain't leaving the house.
Jakiko Mori.
Kiko Mori.
Kiko Mori.
Wait, no, Kiko Murray, because it's me and my cat hanging out at home.
Oh, this is lovely.
Yeah. It's his birthday. It's a year since I got him, so I got him a little candle that's shaped like a question mark because I don't know how old he is.
Oh my gosh, that's wonderful. I love it when a plan comes together.
Yep, me and my cat hang out at home, not fucking all summer, baby.
And that's it.
It's finished.
It's finished.
It's finished.